Hey guys, it's Luke from RetroRevival here, and today I'm looking at these horror custom Lego figures because we are coming up to Halloween, and I never really celebrate Halloween. I think it's kind of cool. I mean, you get to dress up, you have sweets. I used to like it when I was younger, but I've sort of not gotten into it anymore because of my age. But one thing that comes with Halloween that I absolutely love is you can watch a lot more scary movies. And as you can see here, we've got some horror figures, and starting on the back row, you have the original Pennywise, you have Michael Myers, you have Jack Torrance, you have Leatherface. Then in front of Leatherface, you have Regan. Next to Regan, you have Jason Voorhees, then Freddy Krueger, and then finally the new Pennywise. So guys, I'm going to do what I always do. I'm going to look at these figures in depth and tell you my opinions and thoughts on these horror figures. So guys, this is Pennywise the Dancing Clown, and this is from the new films of it, because there was an original mini-series, but this is Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise, and I think this guy is really scary, but this figure is awesome. There's so much detail. He comes with a red balloon, which is cool. His outfit is very detailed with little like grey marks. You can sort of see it on the camera. Little grey marks. You can see the pom-poms. He's got that weird like frilly thing around his neck. I don't know what you call that. He's got blood on his face where he's just eaten someone, obviously. He's got a very sinister grin, and those eyes are creepy. I would say the hair sculpt is a little bit off, but to be fair, he has got a huge forehead on the film, and it's very difficult to do that with Lego, and I think they've done the best they can with this. Also, the hair is weirdly kind of metallic, which is a little bit odd, but it still kind of works. It's got white gloves and some really nice side printing, which is nice to see in these custom figures, and some back printing, which just complements the front. One thing I would say about this figure is there is another face, but it is impossible to get the hair sculpt off the head because it's so tight. This next figure I had to tilt back a little bit because it's not the easiest thing to see. This figure is my favourite horror movie villain ever, Freddy Krueger from A Nightmare on Elm Street. Here, it's nice to see his striped jumper. It has some cuts and like some stains on it, which they didn't have to put on, but I think it was kind of cool. I would say though, it's red and green, not red and black. He has his brown fedora, which I'm actually going to take off just so you can see the face a bit better. There we are, now you can see his face a lot better. And of course, Freddy Krueger was burnt alive. And here you can actually see his really cool face. There are a few different Freddy Krueger figures. I think this one's the best just for that face print. And the torso looks awesome. He's got plain black legs, and then he's got one pale hand and then one sort of tan hand. You can't really see that because he has of course, the very iconic glove that he always has. The striped printing goes straight onto his arms, and you can also get a better look at that tan hand. And the torso print continues onto the back with the stripes, but no like burns or anything on the back of Freddy's head. Next up is Freddy Krueger's mortal enemy, Jason Voorhees, the killer of Camp Crystal Lake in the Friday the 13th franchise. Now, the coolest thing about this figure is, of course, the head. The hockey mask looks awesome with a few little like scratches and little like scuffs with detail, which I thought was awesome. Then he's got a brown jacket on with a torn grey shirt underneath. He's got a darker brown for his legs and black hands. There's no arm printing, but here you get a better shot at what is supposed to be his machete, but it's just one of the Lord of the Rings like swords, which is a bit of a disappointment because it'd be cool just to have a proper machete. And on the back there's a little bit of detail with sort of like the creases in his jacket. Next up is Regan O'Neil from The Exorcist, the little girl who gets possessed, and here she is. There's quite like a cartoonish looking version of the character. Of course, The Exorcist is a very, very scary movie, and this figure isn't too scary. One thing I would say is the hair mould is completely off. It's not the right length, and also in the movie, she has brown hair, not black hair. Her face isn't too detailed, but it does look kind of cool. However, her nightgown looks awesome with like the blood and the green vomit she spews out in the movie, with all like the creases and the sort of like checkered pattern on the front, which is awesome. There is absolutely no printing on the sides, which is a bit of a shame. And the back is quite similar to the front, but it's not the exact same. Something I would say is quite interesting about this figure is the bottom isn't like short legs or anything. It is just a 2x1 brick, which they've just printed on the sides. But to be fair, it works really well. Next up is Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, the coolest thing, again, just like Jason, is the face. This looks so much like Leatherface's mask. I would say it looks a little bit too dark, though. The torso looks awesome with the apron and the tie, and the apron continues onto the legs. He has just grey gloves. I'd say the hair mould is quite off. I mean, it doesn't look like that in the film. However, at least they got the colour right, unlike Regan's figure. And of course, you can't have Leatherface without the chainsaw. There's no side printing, but it does give you a better look at that chainsaw build. And there's a little tiny bit of printing on the back, just where the apron ties around Leatherface. Now, next up is probably the least scary looking figure of the entire collection, but psychologically he's probably the most scary. This is Jack Torrance, the killer from my favourite horror movie, The Shining. Now, the coolest thing about this is that torso. It is spot on. He's got the checked blue shirt underneath with the jacket over the top. It just looks absolutely awesome. He's got plain brown legs, and he comes with Thor's hammer, which is a bit odd, but I know why. Because in the book, he uses a mallet, but in Stanley Kubrick's movie that he made, he uses an axe, which I wish he came with instead, because I haven't read the book, and I haven't watched the Stephen King's version, because Stephen King hated The Shining. So he made his own mini-series in the 90s, and it wasn't anywhere near as good, so he's gone off that. And he's got the hammer, but I wish he would have had the axe instead. Now, the face is pretty good. He's got the sideburns, which is cool, and he's got that like grin. It's a little bit cartoony, but hey, it's a Lego figure. What are you gonna do? Now, I would say the hair mold is way off. I mean, it's probably the best they could have done. There's one mold that they use on Peter Venkman's new figure that they got for Lego Dimensions and the Ghostbusters Firehouse set, which I don't have, but that would have looked a lot better because it was more like Jack Torrance's hair. But this, to be fair, is a good compromise. There isn't any printing on the side, and there's a tiny bit of printing on the back, just where the collar goes for the jacket. Now, next up is Michael Myers, and he is the killer in Halloween, John Carpenter's classic from the 70s, and this is a great horror movie. I mean, these are all great horror movies, but this one is just great. It's probably the slasher that started it all, really. I mean, there's earlier ones, but this is the one that sort of brought it in for a modern audience. It's just an absolute horror classic. Now, the mask on this is awesome, and the hair, I think, goes pretty well, but you can automatically tell who it is. Now, this is almost impossible to see on the camera, but there is a little bit of detail on the sort of boiler suit, I guess that's what you can call it, which is just navy with a bit of black detailing and a little bit of like grey, like slash blue, I guess you could say, on like some of the creases. It's not the easiest thing to see. I felt like I had to put the knife like that just because it's Michael Myers, but there's no printing on the sides at all. But you can see the knife a bit better, and you can see he just has plain pale hands. And unfortunately, there is no printing on the back either. Finally, we have the original Pennywise, and I think this is the best figure of the bunch, and I'm going to tell you why. Not only does it come with a red balloon, which is also always awesome to have, he also has a great face print and the ruffles around his neck. Then up top is a custom head mold. This is not what Lego used. They've never used this head mold. It is custom and it looks great. One thing I would say is the paint is a bit off on it, and of course you can obviously see the line where the mold ends and where the head begins, and the paint isn't great on it. I mean, you can sort of see where the white blends into the red, which is a little bit sad, but you know, it's not an actual Lego print. There's also a lot of printing on the front with the sort of like floral green bits on the purple, also with the 3 big orange pom-poms continuing from the torso to the legs. There's creases in the legs, there's sort of like a zipper underneath the 3rd pom-pom, and there's also little black bits at the bottom which shows off the shoes. There is also side printing on the arms where you can see the green and purple stripes, and of course you have the white hand, and you can see the head mold a bit better, how just cool it looks. And also that cool floral pattern I was talking about earlier continues onto the back with even more detail below that. It sort of looks like a zipper again, and some more creases. And you can see the back of that really cool custom head mold. So guys, these are the horror figures, and I think they're absolutely awesome. As I've said, I think some of them are better than others, but I like all of them, and they just all look awesome. And I love horror. I didn't used to like it, but this year I've really gotten into it, and I like all of these movies. They're all great. All horror classics that everyone should watch. Some of them are more scary than others, but I think all of these movies deserve a watch, and all of these villains are just great villains, not only in horror, but in cinema as a whole. So guys, I have been Luke from RetroRevival. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you all later. Bye.